Okay. How about discussing something that should be pretty obvious, but it doesn't exist currently? Light. How about a discussion on light? Now, most people don't care about field theory. Most photographers, of course, should care about light, but not to the level that I'm about to discuss it. So, if you're not into thinking or using your brain or, questioning the nature of things, then you probably shouldn't watch this video. If you're actually interested in how the universe works and some simple things that people that are truth seekers are interested in, then I think you'll like this video. Let me find you a really rare quote that is from Nikola Tesla. I actually found this quote only last year after acquiring everything that Nikola Tesla wrote, and I was looking for substantiation of his premise of my theory of light, because I've always known all these many years that quantum mechanics and relativity was an absurdity. This notion of wave-particle duality is an absolute insanity in every way, shape, or form. I mean, the stuff that we take for granted is absolutely absurd. The notion that, for example, a light bulb emits light, and, that's, for some reason this table's creaking all of a sudden, is an absurdity. A light bulb doesn't emit light. I mean, you think that, for example, like I'm using this speed light, that I'm actually, that light is actually emitting from this, or even worse still, the notion of something which we have absolutely no substantiation for in this universe, photons, of which there is no empirical evidence in this world, actually exists, is emitting from this, or that your camera is actually capturing photons. I mean, after you take a bunch of pictures, you need to take the lens off and check the photons out. Light is a coaxial circuit. It is a perturbation in the field that everything swims in, if you will. This fact is so irrefutable that quantum mechanics, which is a quantity, i.e. materialism or Descartesian atomism, admits as they're calling it quantum fluid, but that's just nothing other than a pathetic way to use the word ether without actually saying ether. Anyway, here's a quote from Nikola Tesla. He's asked a question about light. The grand illusion of current human ignorance of light being a wave-particle duality or rarefied insanity. This is mine, actually. But yeah, in our wave, a rarefied insanity of the highest order. No, this is actually Nikola Tesla, excuse me. I thought I was reading from there. Spring perturbation medium. Yeah, the idea that light has a speed is yet another human insanity. This so-called speed of light is in fact merely a rate of induction. Once again, this is my quote. Let me get the Nikola Tesla's quote here in a second. This is my quote. The idea that light has a speed is yet another human insanity. The so-called speed of light is in fact merely the rate of induction through a medium at a given resistance and capacitance, of which we also know light shifts its speed, induction in fact, through glass and various other mediums. The quote for Tesla, I'm sorry, I was off key on that one. The actual quote from Tesla, starting from beginning to end, is here. There is something frightening about the universe that we consider that only our senses of sound and sight make it beautiful. The universe is darker than the darkest ink, colder than the coldest ice, and more silent than a silent tomb. Sight and sound are our only avenues through which we can perceive it all. There is a third sense which we have failed to discover. The fascination of the false, that's in parentheses mine, the electromagnetic wave theory of light advanced by James Clerk Maxwell and subsequently experimentally investigated by Hertz was so great that even now, although controverted, him meaning idiot, the scientific minds are under its sway. The theory supposed the existence of a medium which was solid yet permitted bodies to pass through it without resistance. Is tenuous behind this conception, yet according to our conceptions of mechanical principles and ages of experience, such a medium was absolutely impossible. Light was considered such a phenomena bound up in that kind of medium, namely transmitting transverse vibrations like a solid. What then can light be if not a transverse vibration? I consider this extremely important. Light cannot be. This is Nikola Tesla talking, and I only found this after forming my theory that light was a coaxial longitudinal dielectric with transverse and electric. Light cannot be purely electromagnetic, and I actually, of course, formed the theory of light that actually supports all observed natures of light. And of course, wave-particle duality is an absurdity in the extreme. This is Nikola Tesla saying light cannot be anything but a longitudinal, same thing I said, a coaxial, longitudinal like a z-axis radial, a longitudinal disturbance in the ether involving alternating compressions and rarefactions. Light cannot be anything else than a sound wave, analogously, in the medium or the ether. This appears clearly if it is first realized that there is no Maxwellian ether. See, there's 1,000 different theories of ether back in Tesla's day, and before then going all back to the ancient Greeks. That's not to say, of course, there are many horrifically faulty theories of the ether, but that's not to say that denying these various crackpot ideas of the ether is a denial of the ether. That's certainly not the case. Therefore, there can be no transverse oscillations in the medium. The Newtonian theory is an error because it fails entirely in not being able to explain how a small candle can project light with the same speed as the blazing sun, which has immensely higher temperatures and power. We have made sure by experiment that light propagates with the same velocity, irrespective of the character of the source. Such consistency of velocity can only be explained by assuming that it is dependent solely on the physical properties, physical in quotations, the properties of the ether, the medium, especially its density and its elastic potential of force. Well, yeah, that's exactly the case. Now let me read my quote after this one that I've started to say was Tesla's, but it was actually my quote from the 4th edition of the book. Sorry about that. The grand illusion of current human ignorance of light being a wave-particle duality, a rarefied insanity of the highest order, is no different than the ancient tale of blind men feeling an elephant. One was holding on the tail, proclaiming the creature to be like a snake, or in our case a wave, transverse wave oscillations, and the other blind man holding the body of the elephant, claiming the creature is like a beer barrel, or in our case a presumed particle. The nature of light, however, is a coaxial circuit with rarefactions and compressions of longitudinal dielectric pulses and necessitated transverse electromagnetic divergent fronts from the compressions and rarefactions. Nothing in the universe emits light. Obviously, that's certainly the case. Rather, spurn perturbations in the medium, and those medium perturbations propagate at the rate of induction of the medium through which it passes in or through. The idea that light has a speed is yet another human insanity, as I said before. Light is not a speed. We know, for example, and what creates chromatic aberration through lenses is the actual change of, like, blue light is shifted more. I mean, it's like a blue light. Blue light has actually higher capacitance. As you go towards the blue end of the spectrum, the light, the electromagnetic coaxial circuit has more and more power. The further you go towards that end, the more dangerous the light becomes, to the point where if you head further in that direction, it will kill you just like that. That's because that end of the spectrum has more capacitance. Now, some things that never been defined by science that we take so for granted. Coherency. Do you know that there's not, of course I've already told you many times before, there's not a single definition. There's quantifications for a field has a certain electrical current when it exists at a certain proximity. You know, there are endless tens of thousands of books on that, but there's not a single book that you'll find anywhere that will actually give you a denotation of what a field is, because a field has no quantity. And that's the 600-pound gorilla that sits its ass right on the skull of current physics, which is nothing other than Descartesian materialism or atomism. Now, another thing, in addition to fields, which I've said endlessly has never been defined, is the term coherency. Now, what do you think is the difference, denotatively, between 5 watts of light bulb illumination and 5 watts from a laser? Well, one isn't even worth reading a light bulb, reading a book by. 5-watt light bulb, have you ever used a 5-watt bulb? I mean, it's worthless. A 5-watt laser, however, will burn a hole in your ass. Now, there's no quantitative difference between 5 watts of incoherent radiation and 5 watts of coherent. There is a qualitative difference. That qualitative difference, naturally so, is stated specifically to be light that is in phase. It's the same thing that actually defines a magnet. The only thing that defines a magnet is nothing in quantity. A magnet has absolutely zero quantitative difference before it is charged and after it's charged. It's exactly 100% the same quantitatively. Qualitatively, it's totally different. It operates in coherence. We obviously know about aligned domains, but that's a description. And one of the things that the ancient Greeks railed about and that modern humanity doesn't understand is that descriptions are never explanations, nor are accurate observations explanations of what is going on. The idiot Einstein, for example, who made accurate observations that he got the Nobel Prize for, was not the emission of electrons. His observations were completely correct, but his explanations were completely wrong. Einstein was an idiot. Actually, he got the notion of c squared from James Clerk Maxwell, and Charles Brodie Steinmetz talks about this. Impulses, wave, and discharge. Capacitance is forever married to the velocity of light, which is 1 over c squared. If you think that anything is emitting light, I mean, you're fooled. I mean, I grew up with that BS notion too, but it made no sense. I mean, it's completely ridiculous. There is no quantity that is passing through, the empty void of space, nor between the sun and the earth. Well, the sun's emitting light. This 1960s hippie throwback fiber optic, tabletop job is emitting light. No, it's not emitting light. It's creating a field perturbation that is propagating with transverse electrical and magnetic components and a longitudinal dielectric. It is a coaxial circuit that is propagating. If you stick this in a complete and total vacuum, there is nothing quantitatively that is passing. Now, of course, the thing that would come up that I've argued with other idiots before, they're talking about, well, what about solar propulsion shields? Would you actually deploy a huge, basically like foil array, and you're able to actually ride the light. So they say that actually photons are hitting the back of that. It's not actually impelled by solar panels, but you're actually capturing the solar winds. You're actually capturing photons, and that is propelling you through space. Well, that's not the case. Everything in the universe is based on 4 principles: permittivity, permeability, capacitance, and resistance. The extremely low magnetic permeability and the natures of the capacitance and the resistance of that foil is actually what drives it forward. The same example that we have of a superconductor. I actually grew up with a liquid nitrogen tank and yttrium, barium, copper oxide discs and neodymium magnets. Would always experiment with these superconductors, but I always knew in the back of my mind that it was a complete absurdity to call that superconductivity. What actually happens is that the Ln2 cooled yttrium, barium, copper oxide disc undergoes a change as far as its magnetic permeability. So what happens is there's no superconductivity going on at all. What happens is that ceramic disc, which is what it is, undergoes at that liquid nitrogen temperature the attribute of extremely, extremely low magnetic permeability. It basically becomes a bulletproof vest, if you will, for the permeability of magnetic divergence. And it's like, oh my God, everything that I know and understand about light, magnetism, and field theory now makes sense. All this stuff that I knew all this time that was absurd, irrational bullshit, spoon-fed to me by these mental midgets with degrees. And by the way, degrees mean nothing. I've got 2 degrees. You can spend your entire life in college, but, there's no fixing stupid. Some of the dumbest people I know have the most degrees. And people, well, what's your degree? And, you're a professor of field theory and electrodynamics, and Richard Feynman, and these other you know what? That doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. These people are nothing but a cult of atomism. And the only way you can destroy them is very, very simply just ask them to define a field. They'll never be able to do it. They can't do it because everything in the universe is fields, and fields are not particles. Light is not particles either. Nothing emits light. And that seems like such an irrational concept. What do you mean nothing emits light? Well, of course it emits light. That light bulb illuminating your ugly face is emitting light, and that little fiber optic thing on your table, it's not emitting light. It is causing a perturbation in the medium. And that medium exists in the absolute deepest, darkest voids of space. Or space is nothing other than the absence of inertia. But inertia is everywhere. What is inertia? Inertia is the ether. I don't care what the hell you call it. I mean, inertia is the ether, ether is the inertia. It is an inertial perturbation. It is the release of that inertia through perturbation, the release of energy, divergence, convergence. Mother Nature doesn't use a calculator. Things are really, really simple. It's that all these idiots have made it very, very complicated over the years. The nature of light is very simplex. It's not simple, but it's actually simplex. You know, so this wave-particle duality bullshit that these people are probably... It's exactly like the old, as I've already told you, the old tale of the two blind men. You know, one guy's arguing that the elephant's like a snake because he's yanking on its tail. The other guy's got a hold of the body, and you know, he says it's like a barrel. And you got another guy that's got a hold of the ears, and he tells you it's like a giant pancake. You know, big elephant ears. You know, it's like, well, they come up with this wave-particle duality bullshit, and it's completely arbitrary. I mean, it's ridiculous. You know, the real definition of duality, if you get down to the denotation of the term duality, is that if you want to define what duality means as far as human understanding and comprehension, duality means we don't fucking know the answer, so we're going to call it a duality. It's like the duality of the sun rising and the sun setting to ancient people. Like the sun sets up there, and then it's just, you know, it rises over here. That's the duality of sunrise. You know, and you just don't fucking understand. You can call it a duality if you want. It's a complete unified whole. The earth spins, it rises here, it sets over there. It's not complicated, but humans don't understand it. It's the same way with fields and light. There's no such thing as a wave-particle duality. I mean, if light could speak, I mean, it'd give humanity a giant middle finger and say, you're full of shit. You know, what's this wave-particle duality crap you're talking about? That's not what I am. I mean, it is nothing other than an ether or field perturbation. But this perturbation has no quantity. But we grew up with all this Star Trek bullshit and Star Wars bullshit, tachyons and gluons and muons and all these exotic particles that would cause time to reverse, and everything. You know, Mother Nature's just this insane, cross-eyed crack whore with a giant bag of unicorn farts and pixie dust and these magic particles. Do you really think that the cosmos works that way? I mean, do you really think that's the way things work? I mean, if aliens were to land, I'm not talking about aliens, but if they were to land, like, damn, you humans are pretty damn stupid. I mean, shit. I mean, is this the shit you believe in? Wave-particle duality and tachyons and gluons? I mean, try to have one of these morons explain to you instantaneous action at a distance. I mean, they can't do it. Everything in the universe, like I said, can be distilled down into four principles: resistance, capacitance, permeability, and permittivity. Light is nothing other than like a field perturbation, which is like pistons in your car. You have transverse pistons operating this way, transverse electrical magnetic perturbations, but you have the crankshaft. Now, if you think that light, as modern science and quantum physics, which is nothing other than a cult of atomism, is strictly or merely so electromagnetism, then you're talking about a car that has pistons and no damn crankshaft. And it doesn't work that way. There's a crankshaft, and that is the coaxial nature of light. That's the longitudinal dielectric rarefactions and compressions that occur, and as those rarefactions occur, there are transverse electrical and magnetic, whether that is circular propagation or linear propagation of transverse electrical and magnetic. It doesn't make any difference. Those are all modalities of phase shift within the electromagnetic coaxial nature of light. They're still the exact same luminal propagations of field perturbations. It's not complicated. However, other people are like, oh God, you know, this is really complicated. I don't understand that. Well, it's not. As Eric Dollard said, I'm going to quote Eric Dollard, hence capacitance exists in direct relationship with the velocity of light in a given medium. Zero capacitance equals infinite velocity. You know, that which causes chromatic aberration in lenses, why do you think the blue light shifts more as it passes? Glass, you know that clear glass in there, in those lenses? That is a capacitor. And light has a higher voltage per given segment of its frequency than does red light. It's what causes a divergence and why we have to introduce these flint elements and aspherical elements and ED glass. ED glass, 99% of you don't know what the hell ED glass is. It is nothing other than doped glass that changes the dielectric and magnetic permeability and permittivity of light to reconverge the far end and near end of the spectrum, the red end of the blue end, closer together so you don't end up with nasty chromatic aberration. What do you think the purple and blue fringing comes from in these old low element count lenses? It's because that blue light, when it passes through the light, the capacitance is changed and it slows down the light. I mean, this isn't my premise. We know for a damn fact that light is not a constant. And like I said, light doesn't have a speed. It has a rate of induction due to capacitance as it passes through X medium. When it passes through glass, blue light acts differently. It is actually make things really simple. The brakes are put on blue light to a certain degree as it passes through the glass, more so than does red light. And this is what ends up causing chromatic aberration. So most people don't give a damn about any of this stuff, but I mean, we grew up with these pathetic notions that, things emit light. Well, no. The sun doesn't emit light. The speed light doesn't emit light. It's a field perturbation. Light is not being emitted by these devices. Energy is being released, which causes manifestation, field perturbation, transverse electrical magnetic, and longitudinal z-axis rarefaction compressions at a given power, either coherent or incoherent. And that's, like I said, that's the other thing. All you have to do is ask some of these quantum physicists, these morons, two things. If you want to know two things, it'll shut them up instantly. Ask them to define the word field, which they'll never be able to do. Then ask them to define the word coherency, as far as it pertains to light. Why is there no quantitative difference in 5 watts of light, coherent and incoherent, but there's enormous qualitative difference between the two? Because one will burn a hole in your ass and the other one is absolutely useless. There's no quantitative difference at all, only qualitative. They'll never be able to define to you why coherency of the in-phase light is so much more powerful. I can, the coaxial nature explanation of light, which is the only accurate one that there is. It's the only accurate one that explains every observed phenomenon of light. It's the only logical explanation for light. It explains phase shift, linear polarization, circular polarization. It explains away, the BS, the bullshit of wave-particle duality, which is a pure insanity. Like I said, the very term duality is nothing other than, if you want to explain duality, is that we don't fucking know. So we're going to say it's a duality. It's like this mystical animal, like the butterfly. Well, one minute you look at the butterfly before it's a butterfly, and it's this worm. And then when you look at it a month later, as it's in its cocoon, it becomes this flying creature. So we're going to call this the caterpillar-butterfly duality. No, that's just one fucking creature. You dumbasses. It's the same thing with light. Well, that's the caterpillar butterfly duality, and this is the wave-particle duality of light. No, it's the same damn thing. There is no duality there. It's you don't fucking understand what the hell light is. I said it's exactly the same thing as some kids saying, well, it's the caterpillar-butterfly duality. No, it's just that you don't know, and it's fine not to know. But if you think you know, then you don't go searching for answers. But if you know you don't know, you either don't give a shit, or you go searching for the right answers. But all of humanity is going around with this wave-particle duality bullshit and the dual-slit experiment, and they think, well, light has a particle attribute and it has a wave attribute. And this dual-slit experiment proves it. No, it doesn't prove that at all. It proves exactly what I've been saying. It's that you just don't have any damn clue because you're brainless. You're clueless. You're not that intelligent. Or you could be the worst thing in the world is an intelligent fool, and there are a lot of those. Well, I've got a degree in particle physics. No, what that means is you wrote a dissertation, you passed a lot of tests, and you have a degree hanging on your wall, but it doesn't mean you got any damn sense between your ears. Those are the most dangerous people in the world, are intelligent, well-educated dumbasses. So they have a lot of intelligence, but they've got no fucking wisdom. So those are the people you actually have to watch out for. The stupid fool is the easy person. Anybody can spot a stupid fool. When you got an intelligent dumbass, those are the people that are actually kind of dangerous. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope that wasn't too boring. But I thought we'd have a discussion about light. Because what you think it is ain't what you think it is. Okay? And if you want to argue with me, that's fine. Let's have an argument. I'll win it. Catch you later. Bye.